What's going on, guys? So I have the final 53-man roster for the Cowboys. Obviously, that's subject to change, but this is just as of yesterday. This was the official roster. And so in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare my 53-man roster projections I made a couple weeks ago, and we're going to see how close I got it. And to be perfectly honest, I think I did a pretty darn good job. So I have the sheet here with the roster on it as well as who I picked. And we're just going to start at quarterback. And I had Dak Prescott and Andy Dalton as the only two quarterbacks making the roster. Ben DiNucci was the third one. I always said that if there was a third quarterback, I would think we'd go with DiNucci. But just because he's a McCarthy guy. But I didn't think we were going to go three quarterbacks, so I was wrong about that. Running back, I had Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, and fullback Shewo Awon. I'm going to have to look at the name. It's Awonilua. Shewo Awonilua. So now that he's not on the roster, I might not have to remember that name, but I actually thought he had a very good chance of making the roster. I did point out in a running back video and in the 53-man projection video, which I will leave at the end of this video so y'all can go back and watch it if you hadn't seen that yet, is that if a third running back made the roster, it'd probably be over the fullback, which it was, and it'd probably be Rico Dowdle over Jed Anderson, which it was. So on to wide receiver. And when I did wide receiver, the only thing that wasn't out yet was that Cedric Wilson had done so well, and that Noah Brown, I think it just came out a few days ago or a week ago, that Noah Brown came into training camp, really in shape, and that kind of changed the tone for the sixth receiver. And for a long time, I didn't think there were going to be six receivers after I made my video. But Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb are obvious. Cedric Wilson is the fourth. Noah Brown is the fifth. And I had that spot going to John V. Johnson. I had it going to either Devin Smith or John V. Johnson. So I was correct about Devin Smith not being on the final cuts. But I was wrong about Noah Brown. I didn't know he was standing out in training camp at the time. And Vintel Bryant did make the final roster. I believe he's injured. And I don't think he's going to be put on the IR. I'm not too sure about that. Tight end, I think everybody was wrong about tight end. I think everybody thought it was set in stone, including myself, Blake Jarwin, Dalton Schultz, and Blake Bell. And the guy that made the roster, all I know is he's from Michigan, and his name's Sean McKeon. So unless you have an inside source, I don't know how anybody would have predicted that one correctly. I do remember hearing something about him a couple days ago that he's really impressed, but before then, I hadn't heard one thing about him. Didn't even know he was on the team. So far, I was one off at quarterback. I was one off at running back, one off at wide receiver, and one off at tight end. Offensive line, again, I'm one off. So I had the obvious, the Tyron Smith, Connor Williams, Joe Looney, Zach Martin, Lyle Collins, Cam Irving, Connor McGovern, Tyler Biadasz, Brandon Knight, and I predicted Pace Murphy making the roster, and Terrence Steele, who I, again, have no idea who that is, got the roster spot over him. So if anybody was that close on offensive line, then kudos to you. Like I said, people must have some connections in Dallas if they knew we were going to go that route. Defense, I was a lot closer. So defensive line, I added one extra guy. I thought Joe Jackson was going to make the roster, but my logic kind of made sense because it turns out Randy Gregory is going to come back this season. So I don't know if that means we're going to cut like Dorrance Armstrong or if we're going to cut another position and we're going to have the 11 defensive linemen, and I'd be even closer. But basically, it's DeMarcus Lawrence, Don Terry Poe, Tyron Crawford, Alden Smith, Everson Griffin, Tristan Hill, who they're saying is going to be a starter now, so that's exciting, and hopefully he exceeds expectations this season. Antoine Woods, Neville Gallimore, Bradley Anae, Dorrance Armstrong, and like I said, I was wrong about Joe Jackson. So I wouldn't be shocked if Armstrong's the guy that gets cut over Randy Gregory eventually, but we'll just have to wait and see. Linebacker, I was spot on linebacker. Leighton Vander Esch, Jalen Smith, Sean Lee, Joe Thomas, and Luke Gifford. And I predicted the Justin March cut, although it does look like we're definitely bringing Justin March back. Sean Lee's going on the IR, so I'm assuming it's because he's being put on the IR that March is going to replace him at some point. Now, defensive back, I had them right. I had an extra guy, but it turns out he's going to be played as safety, so I didn't miss on this. It's Chidobe Awuzie, Trayvon Diggs, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, who is also going to the IR. So we're going to bring CJ Goodwin back, even though he was cut, and he's going to take that spot until further notice. Daryl Worley being the fifth one. And I had Reggie Robinson being the sixth one. And it turns out we cut Clinton Dix, who I had making the roster at safety. And we went with Reggie Robinson at safety instead of defensive back. So Xavier Woods, Darian Thompson, Reggie Robinson, and who's the fourth one? Donovan Wilson. So I was one off. I had Clinton Dix making the roster at the time, and I think most people did a couple weeks ago. That's when they first started talking about him not performing very well in training camp. Special teams I got right on. Kicker, Greg Zuerlein. Punter, Chris Jones. And long snapper, LP Leducer. I think everybody had him making the roster for sure. So, guys, leave me your thoughts. I think there's some surprises that Francis Bernard was cut. And honestly, I think it comes down to special teams and what he provides on special teams. And when you're not a starting linebacker and you're not the first guy off the bench, then it kind of comes down to who the special teams coach wants. And I guess it was Justin March and not Francis Bernard. But although Justin March did get cut, but he will be back on the roster by the start of the season. So we do know that. Like I said, I missed. Here's my sheet here. I don't know if you can see, it's highlighted in blue. I got Joe Jackson and Clinton Dix wrong. Got a few more guys on the offense wrong, and I had in the red who I didn't have making the roster that did, and I had in the blue who I had making the roster but didn't. But overall, like I said, I think I was pretty close. I'm kind of gloating a little bit, but I didn't get more than one thing wrong for each position as far as one player removed and one player added. I consider that one transaction. But that's going to be it for today, guys. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about our final roster. That's very subject to change. It's not our final roster, but it's our official 53-man roster to this day, or to yesterday's day anyways. So I'm sure it's going to change plenty going into the season and throughout the season, but that's what we got for now. Be sure if you like my video, subscribe for some more Cowboys content, and that's going to do it for today, guys. I'm out. Peace.